Imagine a place where you can feel totally secluded and reconnect with nature, your loved ones, and all your senses. Revive your spirit of discovery. And remember what you've been missing. Here you can feel the life force flow through all things. We call it mana. Reconnect with the world in the islands of Tahiti.
So first and foremost, where is Tahiti? And I'm going to have to treat you all as if you're novices to this, so I do apologize if you've been selling Tahiti for many years, but Tahiti is in the middle of the South Pacific, about an 8-hour flight southwest of Los Angeles, which is generally speaking the way that most Brits who travel to Tahiti go. They hit the west coast of the States using any number of airlines that fly into LA, and then they hop onto one of the 3 airlines that services the islands of Tahiti. I'll come to the airlines in a minute. I say the islands of Tahiti because Tahiti itself is the largest island in the Society Islands. And you can see Tahiti is the dark shape in the sort of southeast corner of this red circle. That is the island of Tahiti. When you're flying in, that is where you fly to. Fly into the capital of Papeete, and it's really from there that you then continue your journey onwards. Further afield, you have the Tuamotus. They are all atolls, which basically means that the islands that were in the middle of the coral reefs have now all sunk. So you've basically got these long circles of coral reef with little islets on them, and that's where most of the hotel and lodgings are. And then much further afield, you come to places such as the Marquesas, the Australs, and the Gambiers. These are really not for your first time holiday makers. It's a 3-hour flight from Tahiti to the Marquesas, for example. They are very lush, very volcanic, no lagoons at all, so very surrounded by very deep sea. So they really are more of an expedition holiday than a fly and flop. When you get to Papeete itself, and after you've stayed on the island of Tahiti, which most people do, most of the incoming flights arrive in the evening, so most people will stay at least one night on the island of Tahiti itself. They will then, you'll hop onto one of these pond hoppers the next day and go out to whichever islands you're going to be visiting. So as I said, most people who come to the islands of Tahiti stay for at least one night on Tahiti itself. I think Tahiti is greatly overlooked. It's the largest of all of the islands. It's got a wonderful lagoon all the way around it, some absolutely fantastic hotels, most of which are not far at all from the airport, so nice, easy access. It's, as you can see, very, very mountainous on the inside. So it's not just those water-based activities that Tahiti is known for, that people go to Tahiti for. They'd go and they'd visit, they'd hike in the center, go on jeep tours, cycling trips, horse riding trips, etc. There's also a market in Papeete, which has to be seen to be believed. South Pacific Island market, everything from fresh coconuts to jewelry to all of the fresh fruits and foods that they make on the islands as well. The other Society Islands, the closest neighbour to Tahiti is the island of Moorea, which is only a 45-minute ferry ride from Papeete itself. So if you don't want to have to buy another flight from Tahiti, you can just jump on the ferry. It only costs about £10 or £11 to get over there. First time I took this ferry, it actually didn't take 45 minutes. It took about an hour and a quarter because we were having to go around all of the whales that were in the water. So actually, it's probably the best whale spotting trip that I've ever been on, that ferry ride from Papeete across to Moorea. Moorea itself is about an hour's drive all the way around, just to give you an idea of the scale. Some absolutely fantastic hotels, as you can see here, the Intercon, Hilton, the Sofitel, etc. The island of Tetiaroa is another island. It's famous for one thing and one thing only, and that is it's the home of the Hotel Brando. The Brando is pretty unique. It's one of the world's finest hotels, founded, as you might expect, by the Hollywood star Marlon Brando. He was actually filming back in the early 60s Mutiny on the Bounty out in the islands, and he visited Tetiaroa, thought it was the most beautiful place in the world, and then decided to make this eco resort on it. Well, it took him about 35 years to actually fulfill his dream, but now you've got this spectacular hotel on the island that is incredibly eco-friendly. For example, they are completely carbon neutral. They have seawater air conditioning, which means they pull in the very cold deep sea water, and they use that to power all of the air conditioning, and also all of the fuel that they use on the island is coconut fuel as well. But it is a pretty shishi place to go. There's only 35 villas, and you know, in the height of season, it could easily set you back in the region of $10,000 per villa per night. So it's obviously only for a specific type of clientele. Arguably the most famous island in all of the islands of Tahiti is Bora Bora. It is the home of the overwater bungalow. So it was the very first place on planet Earth where they built the overwater villas. And we still have an awful lot of them. As you can see on this slide here, all of the hotels are actually on the reef on the outside, looking back in at the island of Bora Bora itself. It means that the only way to travel in between the hotels is by boat. So when you arrive at the airport, there's no taxi rank, there is literally a boat rank, and you jump on one of the boats and they will take you the short distance to whichever hotel it is that you're staying. And when you're there, there are shuttles between the hotels so that you can go and explore parts of the island from your hotel. It's also, as most of the islands of Tahiti are, very environmentally conscious, and Bora Bora is home of a world famous turtle centre where they take injured turtles and rehabilitate them before putting them out into the wild. So where do people stay in Tahiti? Well, the one thing that we always hear levelled at Tahiti is the cost of the accommodation. The beauty of Tahiti is that they stopped building there a long time ago. Everything is highly protected. So it's unlike places like the Maldives where they will stick a new hotel on every single grain of sand. We can't build anymore. Obviously, the hotels are continually being refreshed and refurbished, but it does mean that when you pay the money to go there, you do feel like it's exclusive. You're not looking over other hotels stretching all the way down the coast, for example. It does mean, however, especially in high season when availability is difficult, the costs can go up. It's another reason to go in the rainy season when it's less popular to travel there. But it does mean if you want to go and stay in one of the 5-star overwater bungalows in Bora Bora, for example, like the ones in the picture here at the Conrad, it can be quite expensive. So thankfully, there's a whole variety of accommodations throughout the islands that you can go and stay in. Not just your overwater bungalows, but we also have garden bungalows and beach bungalows, and these Tahitian guest houses. There are about 400 of these dotted throughout the islands. They range anything from 2 rooms to 25 rooms. Some of them can be very, very basic B&Bs where you eat with the family. Some are much, much more developed, and they could be a dozen bungalows, 4-star, 5-star bungalows on the back of a beach, but just happen to be owned and family run. This here is the national dish. It's called poisson cru, which means raw fish. Essentially, it's fish which is marinated in coconut milk and lime juice and is absolutely fantastic, very refreshing and available pretty much throughout the islands. But don't worry if you don't like fish. They get lots of their supplies from New Zealand, so the beef and all of the other multicultural foods that you would expect in five-star resorts are, of course, available. I mentioned the weather before, the dry season and the rainy season. This here is the national dish. It's called poisson cru, which means raw fish. Essentially, it's fish which is marinated in coconut milk and lime juice and is absolutely fantastic, very refreshing and available pretty much throughout the islands. But don't worry if you don't like fish. They get lots of their supplies from New Zealand, so the beef and all of the other multicultural foods that you would expect in five-star resorts are, of course, available. I mentioned the weather before, the dry season and the rainy season. Well, look, I just wanted to say thank you very much indeed. If you've got any questions about the islands of Tahiti, please do either contact myself, jim@blackdiamond.co.uk, or Adam, which is adam@blackdiamond.co.uk, and we'll be sure to come back to you. And I just sincerely hope that not only do you start to see more and more people inquiring and bookings coming through, but hopefully that some of them are Tahitian as well. So thanks very much indeed for your time.